Welcome to Equipping in Evangelism, where our goal is to resource and inspire you to confidently share the gospel with those who don't yet know Jesus. I'm Kaz Kramer, and along with my friends Donnie Griggs and Gareth Bowley, we'll explore biblical foundations, practical tools, and real-life stories to help you engage in evangelism with clarity and boldness. Great. Well, welcome back, guys.
Sure.
Really enjoying these conversations so much. And so far, we've gone through a bunch of the W's, right? We've done who, why, what. We've done where and a bit of when.
Yep.
And so actually what I'm here for, I keep going to the practical.
Right.
So let's start on the how.
Right.
Like, how does this actually play out?
Right.
Donnie, I know that you've got kind of a 6 P's of evangelism that you share.
Right.
And we'd love to just learn from you on those.
Yeah. And just to say, I think, and we'll kind of re-mention this again, but like this how is going to be like ongoing,
Yeah.
And
that's really the meat
I
of
love
this.
that. Like, because we're going to get to hear from all kinds of stories across our movement, all kinds of different people doing all kinds of different things, fleshing this out over and over again. So, I mean, I'm really pumped. We've kind of laid a bit of a foundation. Now we can build on it. So, I had a guy at our church years and years ago, who, and I get it. I think I would be someone who would be kind of a quote unquote evangelist. That would be a gift I would be most recognized for. And I get it. Like I can't go on vacation. I can't get in an elevator. I can't do anything. It's like I give off a pheromone, like I'm always in these. So I recognize there's a uniqueness to me.
There's definitely a uniqueness to you, Doug.
Yeah, thank you. But this guy in our church was like, "Hey, can you just teach me how to do this?" And it was like this moment where I was like, "Gosh, man, how am I even still leaving people in the dust on this thing?" So I thought, let me just make this very practical. And preachers love alliteration, so I just picked 6 words that start with P. And so I'll just kind of walk you through them. And this has kind of been for me. If I think about what do I do, how does this work out for me? So the first one is be present. So I just really think about everywhere I go, like I'm trying to be mindful. And I tell you, the worst enemy, you probably could guess it, is my phone, right? When I choose to leave it in the car or put it in my pocket, I am just a better missionary. I'm just a better evangelist, because I've got eyes to see. I was at this grocery store recently, and I'll get to this in a moment, but this lady actually said to me, she said, I was talking with her, and she just said, hey, she said, you're the only person today who's actually even asked me how I'm doing. She said, everybody, parents and their kids, just stare at their phones the whole day. She just started saying this to me. She said, she's like, I can't believe you actually asked me how I was doing, And it's just because I was just being present, And so, I alluded to the gas station in the last one, or, whatever. It's like that mindfulness of, we've said it in different ways. It's just wherever you're at, be all there, right? It's that being present thing, right? And so, from being present, the second one is to be persistent. And so it's like you said, we've all said kind of like leveraging your rhythms. It's not so much adding more to but rather, what is it we're already doing, that like we can do more intentionally. And so for me, my best example is this grocery store in our town. And I just decided, hey, I got to go to the grocery store. I might as well pick one. And I have just worn that store out for years. And I can tell you at any given day, hour of the day, what shift is on, who's working in what department. I know about that lady whose husband had cancer, and that lady who had cancer, and that lady who's having trouble making her bills. And I know about all the little stories now because I'm in there. And even the employees will now pull me aside and say, did you hear about so-and-so? Like, they'll tell me about someone else. Like, they'll say, hey, they probably need to talk to you. Like, I'm like the pastor of this grocery store, And it's just by being persistent, So be present, be persistent.
Had a story about persistence with cutting hair. I don't have a lot of hair, but just deciding, same thing, I'm just going to keep going to the same guy. Happens to be a Pakistani guy. Ended up being able to invite him to an Easter service eventually and things like that. That would never have happened if it wasn't just a simple thing of persistence. And there were other hairdressers open. I'm waiting for Abdul. And
the hairdresser's a great one because they're stuck with you. You're paying them, and they talk.
They got to be nice.
Yeah, well, they don't have to be, but like, I mean, Jill had an awesome conversation one time with the person who cuts her hair, who's again someone who doesn't follow Jesus. And my wife's the same way. She's persistent. Got this person, And Easter was coming up, so it made me think of that. And you said that. And the lady said, like, so what do you got this weekend? And Jill's like, well, Good Friday and Easter, and she was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Y'all do that, And she was like, what is it again? Like literally said, what is it again?
Mm.
She's like, she's like, Jill said, well, it's where we celebrate that Jesus died for our sin and he rose from the dead. And the lady literally stopped, couldn't hear, and goes, she was like, you actually believe that? Jill was like, yeah. She's like, man, I didn't think people actually believe that. And they had this whole amazing conversation that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for this familiarity, right? So it's about familiarity. So, and Cass, please just jump into whenever.
I would just say that part of persistence and presence is proximity. So putting yourself in the place where you
suggesting a new P?
Potentially.
Potentially. Oh, wow.
Another
one. Yes.
But just being in people's lives. So the persistence and the presence puts you in someone's space and life.
Yeah.
And often the surprising things have happened through that for me.
Yeah. This family ended up coming to our church and then becoming Christ followers. And they said, because they said people in our church just kept showing up.
Is this the hairdresser?
No, it's somebody different. They just said, this person just said, like, I can't explain it. Like every time I turned around, you guys kept showing up. You just kept showing up. It's like, we were the people who, I think that was Jesus. Like if we think about geographically, it was a very small little area. And like, it's like he was a person they thought of. Like, man, that lady's like, I got to get to that Jesus guy, like, and so there's the being present, there's the being persistent. And then the third one would be being prepared, and that's just being like, okay, like I start to think, how would I engage this conversation? And like just being ready for, and that goes back to what we were saying, I think even in the last episode about how, praying into your day and kind of going, all right, like, like as I think about the day, like how am I going to be prepared for that? And I think too, like getting good, this is a skill, right? It's getting good at actually picking up, where a conversation is and getting to the gospel is a skill to be developed, and just want to set people free. If you're like, I'm not any good at that. Well, yeah, you're probably not any good at it because you've got to learn how to get good at it. You can grow in it, and you see what Philip did, for example, in Acts 8, where he just gets in that chariot with that Ethiopian eunuch and says from that scripture, he began to tell him about like all of the things Jesus, like how it was revealed in Jesus. And that's a skill to be developed where you can like kind of, and so just to encourage people with that. And so be present, be persistent, be prepared. The next one is be patient. And you guys have already said a lot of this, like, man, sometimes it takes years. Has that been the case for you at all, Kaz, like with some of these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think of a boss that I once had, and she was terrifying. I was terrified of her. And I just persistently over years kind of spoke truth and held my ground. She's in your church.
Whoa.
Now, came to faith, were the most incredible woman.
Wow.
But it took a long time and it was intimidating, And so, you got to be super patient and depersonalize things.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good point too.
Yeah, you're loving the person like Jesus would.
I think part of that patience is also not seeing people as projects. Sorry, another P.
Yeah.
Gosh, man. You can't help yourself.
I think you're doing this on purpose.
Yeah.
But actually loving them, and so patience often looks like, love looks like patience. And also trusting what God's doing in God's timing. Right. You can't force that. You can't speed it up.
Sure.
I often say to people, you don't need people's permission to pray for them, and it helps to pray for people to be patient.
Yeah,
you know what
totally.
I mean? Because it doesn't feel like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
No, what's happening is I'm praying.
And I think patience is as countercultural as it gets, right? Everything's immediate, everything's instant. We don't have to. There's no delayed gratification in our lives. Everything's.
And the devil wants to discourage you.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening.
Totally.
You don't know what's happening.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I was going to say, you make a really good point, which is we've been discipled by the culture we're in to be impatient.
Yeah.
Our whole world is like catering, bending over backwards. Everything has to happen in a millisecond.
Yeah.
Your way, right away. Amazon, boop, it's at the door right now. So many of the places where we live and do ministry, I know it's not for everyone's context, but gosh, for so much of the world, we have been conditioned to be impatient. And And so I think that one right there would make you a better missionary. If you said, okay, how can I grow my discipleship where I'm producing more of the fruit of the Spirit of patience?
Yeah.
Because if you just look at Jesus, it's often been written about, he's just unhurried.
Yeah.
He's not running anywhere. He's patient. And so,
and his word picture on this stuff is seeds being sown.
Oh man,
there's no
you
speeding that.
You just cannot speed it up.
Yeah.
Only God can make that grow.
Totally. Yeah. So, just kind of recapping. So there's the being present piece. There's the, being persistent piece. There's the being prepared piece. There's the patient piece. And then the next one would be practice for me. And so again, it kind of gets back to what I was saying just a moment ago, which is just set yourself free that if you're not good at this, it's okay. It's something you can get better at. It's like, I'm trying to get better at speaking Spanish. I mean, I'm not just going to, I'm no good at it. So what's the point? No, actually, I'm not good at it because I haven't really practiced, and and so I think for a lot of people, they are so like afraid of messing up that they aren't just willing to step out. And it's just having the courage to initiate a conversation. So I would say to somebody, just start with, hey. That's a really good starting point. It's almost like watching like junior high kids like at a dance. It's like, like one side of the room, they want the same thing, but they don't know how to even just say, hey, like, and again, that can take courage, just, okay, you're being persistent, you're showing up at the same place over and over again, and just like start the conversation, hey, how's your day going? Like anything going, you don't have to launch into like, do you know who Jesus is? Is he your Lord and Savior? No, just like, hey, how's it going?
And what I love about that is it's not learning the 4 spiritual laws or how do I say that, because that's just not natural. But the more times I've just discovered that particularly with religious people who think, well, I believe in God.
Yeah.
I've learned a way of talking to that person that I've found this seems to really help people. But I learned that.
Yeah, totally.
I didn't know that up front. And I think just being willing to be on a journey.
Absolutely.
And be on a journey with other people. So this guy who gave his life to the Lord this week, I phoned Charmaine in our church and said, hey, I want to share with you about something that I think really helps religious South Africans to kind of cross the line of faith. And it's not a little tool, but it's a learning. And I think being open to learning. Yeah.
And I think within this thing of practicing, we're all different.
Totally.
And so to actually have room for the way we approach people, we practice. It's not practicing, oh, this is my script. It's actually practicing how is it that I best relate to people. So I relate to people by lovingly teasing them.
So knowing yourself, really.
And it's not offensive. It makes them feel included, and that's me. But other people can do that, and actually it's cutting and it doesn't work.
Right.
Other people will say, just curiosity and asking people about themselves because they love to talk about themselves. And actually, we're all so good at talking about ourselves.
Right.
But we don't naturally ask questions necessarily. So that's another kind of tactic to practice is,
totally.
tell me, like your tattoo story about the girl in the airplane.
Yeah.
A tattoo is always a story, and it's such a great end. Tell me about that tattoo. Oh, well, if I've got a tattoo, there's a reason for it, and there's a story. And, it allows the person to kind of let their guard down and chat a bit. And these are kind of tactics.
I think part of practicing what you've just said now is learning by listening from others and then thinking, well, I can do that. I heard of a guy in Canada who was wanting to plant a church in a town. And so he decided to show up every day at a coffee shop, and there's a communal table and there's an understanding. People, if they sit at that table, people will engage. And he just decided to ask them a question. And the question was, who are you? And people would normally respond with what they did or, where they lived. And then he would say, no, I didn't ask you what you do, or I didn't ask you where you live, or didn't ask you who you're related to or where you went to school. And he would just keep saying, no, who are you? And eventually they would just look at him and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And he said, well, would you like to find out? And when I heard that, I'm like, I'm going to practice that. I'd never done that before, but it's totally cool to learn from others or to hey, wait a minute, ask people about their tattoos. That's an in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think part of practicing, I think there's a question before that, which is, what can we learn from others just by listening to stories, etc.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so excited that this podcast isn't finishing today, but rather it's actually just opening up a whole range of people in different contexts where we're going to hear stories and we can learn from those stories and then practice those things.
So where are we on our P's?
Okay, so I think the next one is, and we've kind of hinted all around it, is pray.
Yeah.
I mean, again, to me, this whole approach is just different from the four spiritual laws kind of apologetical approach, where it's almost like a salesmanship kind of always be closing, like, which
Yeah.
can be gimmicky at best, can be kind of manipulative, at
Fringy.
worst, and just pushy and all the rest. So, but again, I feel like prayer can often get left out, and I think that's really unfortunate. I mean, you kind of have been anticipating that, like the prayerfulness has already come out sort of in some of this already, but it's that, like, it's going, okay, going into my day, how am I praying through the calendar? You've already said that, like, we're going to look at our day and we're going to pray. For me, I'll even try to, like, part of my preparing is in the parking lot, like before I go into a restaurant or grocery store, I'll pray.
Just have that little moment.
Yeah, I'll just say, okay,
Yeah.
God, like, I'm going to go. And my job is not just to go get groceries, make sure I get all the things that was on the list. No, that's a win, I guess. But like the real win is like having, like, being led by the Spirit and feeling like I've kind of, gone into this opportunity and tried to make the most of it, as Paul says. And so I'm praying for the people. I'm praying through my calendar. I'm praying before I go into certain opportunities. I'm praying after conversations. That girl on the plane, I mean, I'll never see her again. I mean, but I'm praying, all right, Lord, like, water that, like, so it's just, I think again, it gets back at, like, let's take the emphasis off of what we do, and remind ourselves, like, what God's up to and what only God can do. And that's what I think prayer is, right? It's an act of surrender. It's like, God, I can't make this grow. It's just seed and water. It's just mud. It's like, you gotta show up and do something here, and
So
Yeah.
often I find myself praying, God, would you do what I can't do? And that both relieves the pressure from me to try and overplay my role, but also it just speaks to this confidence that he's doing something. He's going to do it. He's just invited me to play a little part.
Yeah.
Piper says that when we pray, God gets the glory and we get the help we need.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so, yeah, prayer is such a vital.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on prayer.
We should.
We should, because, there's prayer in the church context that also shifts culture and also kind of equips the believers and all that. There's prayer in a family context. So you've got family on mission. This isn't dad going off and doing his thing. This is us as a
Right.
family. And then there's obviously the personal kind of time with God where we are positioning ourselves
Right.
to kind of walk in the way that he leads us.
Yes.
So even prayer is like one bullet point in 6. It's so multidimensional, and it's such a beautiful thing to unpack. And I think we should look at that in a future episode. At this stage, this podcast will never end. There will be endless episodes into eternity
Yeah.
because there is so much
Yeah.
to chat about. And so maybe we can just share, as we kind of bring this one into land, what we can look forward to in some future episodes.
Yeah. When I think just to kind of tee that up, Kaz, I think I'm excited. Like, everyone's heard a lot from us, the three of us, but I think there are so many stories. I mean,
Yeah.
think about all the countries that are represented, like, within our movement, and all the cities and the suburbs and the rural places and all the different, like, the seasons of life and, occupations. And I mean, I love, like, this is going to feel really, like, wide, it's
Yeah.
going to, I feel like our hope is that, everybody feels like, they're going to hear something that's going to equip them, like their season of life, their sort of stage of life. I think too, like, we'll obviously get into things like, how do we leverage Sunday mornings, and there's so much stuff like that to talk about, but
Yeah.
I just love that people are going to get to hear from more than us and more than just preachers and leaders, moms and, all kinds of stuff,
Yeah. So some of the things that we've got planned, just to kind of whet appetites, would be diving deeper into things like using your dining room table. That is a mission field right there.
Totally.
If you feed people,
Hospitality.
yeah, it's huge. Being led by the Holy Spirit, and certainly we've touched on this, but we can delve more into that. How to share your own story.
Yeah.
And doing that in an authentic way that doesn't position you as the hero, but positions Jesus as the hero. Leveraging your hobbies and interests, right? Like squash. I've started a book club with a friend, and purpose of it is to spend time with women who don't know God. And it's a joy for me. What a joy. I get to read books and drink some wine.
Connect your passion with God's mission.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
I think yours sounds like a healthier pursuit than mine, but I love mine also. You're playing squash. How to be a good local in your town, your town or your city. Like, how do you?
I love that one.
How do you? Let's try this again. You're placed in the place where you are by God.
Yeah.
Like, is that place going to be better off because you live there? We want believers to have great reputations.
Yeah, I think about that Jeremiah, that charge. God says, "I've put you in that place in exile." And He says, pray for it, and seek its welfare.
Yeah.
What does that look like to be the kind of people who seek the welfare of the city where God's put us?
Exactly.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah. And then using your life phase. So whether you are a young mom, whether you're a professional, whether you are a kid in school, whether you're a student at university, whatever it might be.
Single,
married, old, retired, whatever it may be. Like, I think some of us think that at some point we are retired from mission. Absolute nonsense, So on all that, we would love to hear stories from people listening to this podcast.
Yes.
So we'll have an email address below, but it's info@advancedmovement.com. And if you have stories, if you have testimonies, if you have examples, we want to talk to you.
Yes.
We want to
everyday people.
Everyday people. That's what we
stories.
Want. Yeah. We want the normal, because that's so applicable to everyone. You know?
Makes it accessible.
That's the word, accessible.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly that. So guys, that is us for now. We've hopefully laid a bit of a foundation, but we are so excited. I think in future episodes, we'll probably be on different continents. So we're not going to have our lovely lounge with our lovely snacks. It'll look a little different, but we're going to keep these conversations going in the hopes of continuing to equip our friends and our brothers and sisters in Christ in this really beautiful pursuit of evangelism.
It's going to be awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Donnie.
That's it for today on Equipping in Evangelism. We hope this conversation has encouraged you in your evangelism journey. If you found it helpful, share it with your team or church, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep sharing the good news.